for illumined life to be birthed into form. I am the truth. I am the light. Illumined, beloved, divine.
So hello there everyone. Hello. Look at the view. I'm at the edge of a ledge. I'm actually looking down on a cliff. I'm actually in a spot that I wanted to bring everyone to because this spot literally has been life-changing for me, and I think it is the pivotal spot to do this video that I wanted to do for a while now on the topic of self-initiation, self-mastery, and being the true magician self and working with the trickster energy. Because, you know, what better way to represent mastery than mountains? We're here, and this is usually, it always is the most beautiful mountain valley for me in my taste. It's where our biggest or tallest peak in the country is here. And this is actually one of my most sacred spots. I always come here. It's kind of like my destination before my destination, if you know what I mean. So this spot has been life-changing for me at the beginning of last month in March, because something just drove me to climb this hill as a goat, and it wasn't the proper pathway, but it reminded me of my feisty essence that I always had. And I always kind of, you know, the way I always was to make anything, even challenges, even more challenging, because that's just how I am as a light being. I need to explore this realm. And you know, what happened at this point was that, you know, when you go through any sort of darkness and transgression and you're fighting these energies, there's no better way to dismantle and attack this sort of pressure that's building through this stress that's coming from opposing energies than to physically in the body meet this stress. So I actually made these videos that I never posted on my Telegram page for some reason. Maybe I will when the time is right. But these were like self-initiation videos in which I actually discovered through my body, which is my child, it's my human self, that every time I would physically create a stressful situation for myself, that stress would literally dismantle, like a huge release. It caused this jolt of release through my body. And as a result, the child of joy came out of the cage, you know. And what I talked about, these dark energies, they're constantly working on creating pressure building kind of cage around us in which we're not free. And you know, me as a free spirit, I have to be free. So when I'm not free, my inner child being so naturally, you know, communicative with me, it knows what it knows. It's the king. My child always tells me I'm the brave one. And so when I create these situations for myself, I realize, oh my goodness, I am the brave one. You know, I was thinking maybe I'll include some of these shots here. Maybe I'll include them here in the YouTube because there's a larger audience here. And sorry about the sound, you know, it is springtime, and you know, here in the Alps, because winters are so long, when the moment it's spring, people start doing all sorts of activities, you know, so there might be sounds because there's settlements here all over the valley, okay? But here at the mountaintop, it's pure peace. So when you understand that your inner master is either cooperating with your inner child or not, you're literally getting the key to a life of self-mastery. So every time in my life that I literally got myself in a mess, it wasn't like that. It was an impulse of my spirit to drive me through these conditions that basically dismantle a lot of pressure that I assimilate sorry as a light being on a mission. And then I dismantle this through my body, and it's always through physical activity. A while ago, I channeled this sentence from Spirit, which is the constant movement of life force is constantly bringing the truth. Truth is found through movement. The principle of life force is constant movement. I will feel this myself when I'm sitting too much and it's being stuck in the body. It feels like there's not enough movement to trigger the responses that, you know, clearing, we constantly in this realm, we need to clear our thoughts because thoughts are outside inception. So we constantly need to dismantle a lot of energy, and there's no better way to make the body work at it. So the body in this realm is not used appropriately as it used to be. It's not used in the right way or the right manner because we've been just so entrained in mental skills and building our mental abilities, and yet that entrains us in a realm that was not organic or natural for the human being. So what I did here in the beginning of March, it was such a spontaneous impulse. I hope maybe I'll share that at the end. I don't know what I'll do, but these clips were so awesome for me. There's this ferrata root. I'm looking at it right now, and it's like this, and it goes like that. It's actually hotter than 90 degrees, and I didn't have my gear, no belt, no proper training shoes. I was in my winter boots, and these boots are kind of shaky. You don't have a firm grip on your feet. And I'm looking at it, and I had the strong impulse to climb anyway. I'm like, I need to climb this today. And I literally was not in shape because, you know, of my work with transgression and the winter being so long, but I climbed this route. And when I came on top, I was shaking AF, you know, I was shaking so much. But when I came on top, there was 2 butterflies revolving, going one around the other. And it was this symbology for me that once the harder part of my life is done with, this beauty and companionship and love is going to result. So the reason why I'm sharing this with you is because not often we are enjoying the benefits of life that is spirit, that is free, Holy Spirit based, the life that is pure, spontaneous, rich with color, with vitality. A lot of our bodies are stuck and stagnant. You know, most people don't even know that the principle of Tantra that many, even great yogis and gurus taught, the true gurus, I'm not talking about the fake ones, and we're gonna go into that today too. They're all teaching that the body is the gateway for spirit. So if the body is impure, and if you're perhaps eating a diet that's still full of meat and toxins, the body will not be able to really be in a tantric flow. And Tantra is the essence of being in constant flow and fluidity of life. So you have to understand that there's 2 polarities to mastery, right? All by saying that all these gurus were saying that you need a vegan diet, all of them who are true and just, that the body needs to be pure, and you have to go through many levels of purification as a human, especially with the diets that are being enforced upon us right now. So you either go for the lusty treats or you go for yourself as an embodiment of purity. Your decision, right? The choice is always yours as a sovereign being. But point here being is that there's 2 kinds of the path of mastery. One is the feminine mastery discipleship, and the other one is the masculine Christ mastery discipleship. So you would see most of the masters that were presented in this realm so far were more like in type of being like guru figures, like gurus, specific spiritual teachers. They usually were masculine. We're still very used to masculine form of mastery, which teaches about discipline and focusing your light intention to persevere through any sort of challenges that you need to clear through your lower bodies, right, which are body elemental, the physical body elemental, emotional, mental, and of course the astral. And in order for you to have a clearer contact with higher aspects of you that are more into light body consciousness and awareness, you need to first attend to your body. So people who want to go into the spiritual path but keep bouncing themselves back off is because they don't tend to their bodies and their inner child. The inner child, the inner dweller, is the most important part of the mastery. So the embodiment component of this path, that is the feminine Christ mastery discipleship, is the teaching of the tantric flow embodiment. I'm not saying that those beings who are gurus and masters did not, of course any master has to embody polarity of both essences, masculine and feminine divine. But I'm saying that specifically, even when you're masculine in terms of embodiment, like I'm a woman and someone is a man, right? There's alterations, there's changes in what this mastery emanates, what your body in itself exudes, because you know, feminine masters, I have to be honest, and what illumined beings are also showing me, are not having it easy. They have a harder path because the path of feminine mastery is the depth of feeling, and therefore it has more advantages. The feminine masters are always even more attuned than masculine masters because they're attuned to the womb of life, through the mother's womb of life. But it's harder for them because first and foremost, this realm is still very indoctrinated and programmed to deflect and deny the feminine mastery. So the feminines, they can be magnetic, alluring, beautiful goddesses, but not master, right? The moment you approach someone with ego as a feminine being a master, mastress, right? Not a mistress, but a mastress. People will usually, like I had those experiences with men. They would accept me as a woman, alluring, magnetic, but as a master, no. No way. You know, there's a people in ego. That's why I love this movie of the superhero character. I don't know now, this guy, what's it called? I don't watch these movies, but this is the only one I watched for a reason, years ago. What's the name of this character? You know, the one that's really stubborn in the beginning? He's like Doctor Strange, I think. I don't know, I think his name is Doctor Strange. And I don't know how many of you have seen this movie. It was years back. I mean, there were sequels, I think, but I don't know. I don't watch these movies, like superhero types. And so he wanted to elevate himself, so he went to this beautiful master. She was a woman, right? Played by, I think, Tilda Swinton? I don't know. Anyway, this woman so beautifully portrayed the feminine characteristic, like a feminine master. Why is it always a guy, right? Why is it always a man? I mean, this is hilarious what this realm has done, right, to the true path of discipleship. Because women are usually even more attuned. They're so connected to life. They feel more deeply. I'm not saying that masculine masters are not awesome and great. It's just that the feminine, because of the reason they're so overlooked, denied, their gifts are usually not be able to be expressed so physically, like vividly so. Say we need to do as feminine masters a lot of work behind the scenes. So hence we're not appreciated as equally, right? Not in this realm. In the light being realm, it's the opposite. It's the feminine master beings that are seen as the queens, and the masculines are their rightful righteous kings. So it's not about entitlement. It's just the way they cooperate together, but they see the feminine as the force of birth. Here in this realm, it's the opposite, right? So it's usually the men that have all the wisdom and knowledge, and a woman can be a guru, but like very few times it's usually a man, right, who's a guru. And anyway, I love that scene in that movie, because in that movie, Tilda Swinton denies the man. He's like, please, please. And she says, no, I will not take you in as my apprentice or my student, because you're arrogant, you're not humble, and you're not teachable because of that. And I always talk to you about this rigidity of ego that is a clash of wills, and it makes people stay stuck and stagnant. They're not yielding, and if they don't want to yield within the feminine principle of life, which is the pure acceptance of life force, and at the same time they want the benefits of experiencing life that is free and tantric, they're not going to. So as the true masters always said, Tantra is simply the way of life, the life that is God, that is divine. It's pure, it's organic, but it's also raw. It's the kind of truth that you can't mentally attain to, but it's the truth that is raw. You either are there or you're not. You're embodied this or not. So I think in the movie, in alignment with a few clashes, eventually she takes him in, right? And she's teaching him, although be it he's a very difficult student, right? And not all students are as self-initiatory and, you know, really doing the work. Some just want the benefits, and it's always been like that, you know. And so the reason why I want to talk about this first is because people don't understand that everyone has the potential for mastery. Everyone has the same level ground. But those of you who are not watching my videos on purpose of self-mastery, and still rather remain within the rigidity and the control of your mind, you can click off, you know. It sounds kind of harsh, you know, when you say something like that, but it's the truth. Because this part, and also my work on Patreon, it's dedicated to a path of mastery. This is complete self-understanding, complete self-control that is not based on control, but discipline when you really are honoring all of yourself instead of running away, and you're just accepting truth as it is. Perhaps it's difficult in the beginning, just bit per bit, because people often come to me and they would say, at the beginning I didn't know what you're talking about, and then I went away, came back, went away, came back. And it's usually the case because your personality, as it's having these ego clashes and at the same time ego deaths, like people call them dark nights of the soul, but it's just the death of resistance. I call ego resistance because in a tantric path, this is resisting life. Like for example, a lot of people just resist their destinies. Their destiny might be beautiful, but because they're resisting it, they're creating lots of karma and just, self-control over and over again. And they would ask themselves, why is this one so blessed? Why can she go out and be free all day and I can't? Well, it's because I'm my own master. And the reason why I am a master of self is because I'm at one I can't even say it today, I'm so happy, with God, the universal force of life that is organic, pure, and immaculate, right? And then you have people who feel victimized and think, well, they're always finding excuses not to step on the path. And then there's people who step on the path, but they only want to approach it from like the mental plane reality. No one can be a master without being playful and engaging the inner child. That's why all masters and gurus are very playful. They're mischievous. I'm like this. I do many goofy things, pranks, all these things. Because my child is simply at one with life. I'm not resisting life. I love life. And even when people, let's say, would be an ego, I'm not taking that in. I'm not taking that personally. In my growth stages in the past, perhaps I used to, but then I outgrew that. And I grew levels of myself that were no longer of myself. They had nothing more to do with me. And these are these ego deaths that just, the aspects of you that don't serve you, that don't serve your well-being, that have to go. And so a path of mastery is a path of both light and the dark. I've talked about this many times before. And someone who does not want to face their shadow, do the shadow work, confront their shadow, and we've talked about, right, the shadow has many origins. Ancestral lineage, past lifetimes, repetitive patterns, childhood patterns, and trauma as a result of this lifetime. But it's all basically at the core, it's one thing. It's one thing that once you step on this path, you will eventually get closer and closer to, which you will see one revolving core around the main pattern that's always keeping you stuck. And it's usually something very dense, very rigid, keeping you in lockdown, literally. You don't have to be in a physical lockdown to be in the lockdown from within. That's where it all begins. And it's usually leading to karmic life situations and a feeling of not being free. And, people who are lazy, they would just stay in that stagnant mode and wishfully dream of something different, but never really stepping on the path. And remember the great saying, all begins with that one first step, right? The path of 1,000 miles. Just checking in for any uninvited intruders or guests, because this is kind of private, right? Only bugs and flies here today, and butterflies. They're back, just like I'm back. So, people usually have this image of a master being someone serious. Get away from anyone who's just serious. When I do YouTube videos, I don't really show that much of my personality, but people who are on Patreon, they've seen more of my personality than people who, And a master is someone whose personality is completely at one with their soul and with their spirit. It's not separate. It's not like personality clashes with their soul. It's unified. So it's their humble, appreciative, not self-serving, but life-serving and life-affirming essence that's always in flow. And it's dynamic. So your growth as a master is ultimate. It never stops. But most masters who were really true gurus in a real sense of what the guru means, the guru simply means a teacher in the light, have always been stressing out this release of rigidity and being hard towards yourself and just be playful, enjoy life, embrace life, which is, we go to these healing methods and healers and try to do all kinds of work on ourselves, but we never think of the simple things as just being playful and allow yourself, after all you've gone through perhaps, to just embrace life in a playful way again. That is the key to your healing. You don't need to do so much of, I'm not saying, sometimes people need to go to a healer or someone who will give them the next step or next unveiling, right, if they can't see yet. But there's a difference of that and being addicted to healing and sessions and readings and things like that, because again, everything in moderation, right? So the true word guru as the teacher has been so lost, because now in our current realm, as you see, even gurus became the tricksters or the false prophets or the bearers of false news and information and agents of the devil even, right? As we always talk about the devil being the enemy of God or the enemy of the Christ. And many times I've explained why this is so. It's because the fallen aspects of life said, we don't want to serve God. We don't want to do what God tells us to do. We want to rebel and be independent because God demands things of us. But in truth, when you really know the nature of God, it is such an honor to be able to serve God. It is such an honor. And when light beings, like including myself, when we get an assignment, we don't ask, oh God, why have you specifically shown me this? Or, why do I have to assist this person or in that situation? We don't ask, we just do. That's a master, okay? And that's a difference between someone who always questions life and questions themselves and spinning and looping, and a person who just accepts that everything is simply ordained and orchestrated by this force of life. So in our own language, we have an author. I don't know how many of you actually are from my own country. Probably very few. But there's this author here with a very famous book or work. I don't think it's been translated to other languages. I don't know, perhaps. But it's called The Wizard's Apprentice. And this writer, I think his name is Edward Flisser. Yeah. And I haven't read the book. My mother read me paragraphs because you know me, I'm so busy. I'm always working on something. I really don't have much time. But this book is fabulous because this person who's a writer went, to explore himself. So I think he went to India or Tibet, I don't know. So he went there and he found this guru. And in truth, right, the real gurus were hidden. You had to work to find them. A student has to find a teacher. A master doesn't go out and say, you have to be my student and pull people in, right? You need to come to them. And in that book, there's a sentence towards the end that each time I read it, I just cry because it's so true. When he gives them these last few droplets of wisdom, like go out and play, And he writes at the end, what really changed for me after that experience? He said, nothing. I'm just going to go and pour myself some tea and everything will be the same because that's what mastery is. Everything is the same, life is the same, but you're not the same. Everything changed for you. You're free now. You're free from your self-constraints, from dark inception points, things that can no longer manipulate you because you've stepped in your wholeness. Because now you trust yourself. Remember, unconditional love is directly linked with unconditional trust into yourself. And so there's things that the masculine mastery cannot teach that the feminine can, but they're both linked together. They're one. So you need in this realm both masculine and feminine teachers of true illumined light. But that's getting lost more and more because what used to truly be a guru, a being who is supposed to be a teacher into the light, and when a guru is true, many of them, what they can also do because of their own immaculate state, they can reverberate onto you and they can translate the codes of purity, which is in Sanskrit it's called Shaktipat. So it's kind of like a translation of spiritual energy and sometimes even power. It depends what that soul needs. If in the case of that soul it will be indicated and read through Guru by, of course, none other than God, that's something that the soul needs as a push or a lift off. And that's an ability that I didn't know I have until this summer. Right, when we did one experiment with when Jesus came in and said, I was working with someone and he said, I want to give you this deliverance through a Shaktipat transmission. It's a heart-based transmission, but it's kind of like the way we do this, it's like an overall body sensation. It's like a translation of high spiritual intelligent force of life for people who sometimes they've been so depleted, and the reason why they're always stopping themselves or preventing themselves from taking the next step and going further into exploration of their spiritual nature and who they are as a spiritual child of God, not a materialistic one, right? Someone who's stuck in material realm, is often because they lack enough spiritual light quotient. They lack that. So at that point there can be this translation of the purest dispensation of light that a guru can give. But what gurus now became instead, I don't know how many of you know this, but gurus usually now in this realm who have large halls of people, richness, stuff there, all recorded, all provided. Have you ever asked yourself who supports all this? How come a man who's supposed to be someone just like used to be just a man, now suddenly they're famous? No one asked themselves who supported. Where did they suddenly overnight became famous? How did they come into this role? Because gurus who used to be very hidden and they also had enemies, they didn't act this way. So for example, I think in Osho's case, it's the students that later wrote the books and did the oracles according to his teachings, and they were recording them. And it's the same, I think, in Krishnamurti, but he was very difficult for most to understand That's why a lot of people did not understand him, because he came out with too much of high intelligence, and that's sometimes true. And even in my case, when you present things from a very high position, people will not get it at first, but it's kind of like it needs to slowly, gradually dispensate and be integrated, like layer per layer. But each one of us is simply as we are. Like, I can't moderate myself to suit someone, or, you know, that's why people would find you who had a specific light quotient to understand. And some people just need a shake up that's a wake up call, and then they would leave. And it's different realms, different levels, right? But what I'm saying here, going back to this guru distortion, is that now you have all these gurus that people never who go there, and it's massive following of people who just do like this, they nod their heads. We've talked about it before in one of my videos, how this became a mass entrainment of humans, not just their will, but their consciousness. And you would see these people, you know, now we have someone very, very famous that, you know, the moment I knew, I think I even shared about that specific one a few years ago. Was it 2018, 2019, when I started looking at them? Like, suddenly they were popping up everywhere. They became so famous. Like, where did they come from all of a sudden, right? And I knew someone from India, and they were telling me, oh, this one is so amazing. And like, almost like from this very airy kind of energy. And you're like, can you just ask yourself? And the moment I knew is because there was this interview with this person, right? And you know me, I'm very intelligent. I question everything. And I'm the best detective I know. The biggest detective, at least. And there was an interview with this person. And they asked him something about his wife and something, his daughter. It was very hidden. He did not want to comment. Like, why are you not commenting? What do you have to hide? When you're a true being, like, you're so pure, you have nothing to hide. You can talk about anything. You see me in my videos. I don't just talk about knowledge. I tell you all of my experiences. I don't go so much into detail because obviously that's just between me and God and my initiations. But the point of the matter is you don't have anything to hide. You are transparent. You are so much full of integrity that nothing you do ever is against God. And so the moment you find these points of something's fishy there, you have to start asking yourself questions. And then this whole Corona sham came into be, and that being started promoting, yeah, be healthy, do this, do that. I'm like, of course. And then you saw them on Instagram walking with these politicians, and so you know how much Osho, for example, was against politics. Many of them, they said it's a sham. And even philosophy and all this blah blah, constant blah blah, just a tossing and turning of this, you know, let's just keep on argumenting and stay in the mind. Let's not live in the body. I'm not really so aligned with this world of gurus because I'm a light being, and a lot of these gurus are ancient old souls that derived of earth. They're very old souls. They have very different energy signature, for example, that we do as illumined beings. We are more like light being masters. We're not of earth mastery, but a lot of these things these beings have is very precious, and the teachings they have and the sacredness to which they approach life. But you have to see the difference between a true guru and the one who really had wisdom to share, and someone who's just like, and many times they're being set up, they're being pushed there on the pedestal so people can begin being entrained. Like a while ago, years back, I had a dream of these alterations happening with these famous personas, and people say, well, that's a guru just because they dress like this and they have a beard. You literally have to now become so aware that even the gurus, and especially probably as false prophets, are now carriers of the trickster energy. And everyone is, as you know, exposed when you don't ask the right questions, right? And you open up the right doorways. So a guru is not someone who would say, they would speak a lot and they would, you know, like, this is how it is, and this person like this. And then they wave their hand, you know, literally lately, just a while ago, I channeled this information. When there's this famous person, they always do like this with their hand, and they go like, isn't it? And sorry, I'm like doing my Indian accent here. You should see my Yoda bits on Telegram. I love that thing. You need humor, right, to survive in this realm. But basically not just for that, it's because you are humor. And no one can ever take that true nature of yours away. So, when someone is telling you things and then they look like this with the hand, say, isn't it? And they're literally asking you, right? This is how it is. And then you see people going like, yes, it is. Yes, master. And people don't even know that even that is a form of entrainment. You know what entrainment means? Like pulling your will, your consciousness, and aligning it with the group energy that's behind this, whoever it is that's sitting in front of people. A true guru always works, they don't work with the masses. True guru doesn't work with the masses, like very rarely. They might spread a teaching, yes, they might here and there, but their primary work, like really, if you want someone to dedicate themselves to their own mastery, right, they have to meet eye to eye, face to face, to really see what's happening. And they would ask you questions, and they would trigger you to you yourself give these responses to yourself, okay? Because the true nature of a master is to pull your own mastery out of you, not to give you a bunch of knowledge and say, isn't it? And waving their hand, you don't understand that this is a movement. It's like magicians, you know, they coerce, they do this movement, and it's a gesture that we might think, oh, it's random, it doesn't mean anything, but yes, it does. When you take a deeper look, everything is encoded. So many times you have people speaking to you, and they're literally manipulating you through their body language. And these are all learned tactics of many beings who are behind these operatives, right? So I know nowadays you have so many people who, just because someone is famous and they have a good charisma about them, remember, charisma is not always good. Sometimes charisma is false, because these beings know how to pull people in. They're skilled, and it's one thing to be learned, to be skilled in charisma, or to have a natural, life-exuding, life-affirming charisma of a true indigenous master. And many times you will find different shamans and beings that are indigenous beings that you wouldn't just locate easily, but suddenly they're a part of your life. And these beings have much more to offer, right? Now, let me tell you something about, just a while ago, I had a session with someone. It was actually a session with someone from my country for the first time. I think maybe years back I had it with someone, but it was different. And it was funny because we were talking in two languages, right? Because my channeling language is English. You know, primary language of mine became English, not even my own language. To me, it's sacred to, you know, speak my language, and I only actually speak it to my mother with her. And it's just, that's kind of like my personal realm. So even though with this work and sharing and putting the truth out there, I don't mean to expose myself, because you know how the devil is, and I've had enough stalkers and energy vampires in my life, probably more than anyone else. And I wanted to talk to you about something that was so beautiful about this session, because I've never had a session quite like this. It was the most enjoyable session for me personally, as Polona, Aurea. Seriously, I laughed so hard. This was a session when you can just work with ease and with flow, because what was happening with this specific individual, the moment I went into the channeling part of the session, because usually we have a talk, right, a mini discussion, and when I connect to someone's soul during the translation of that conversation, the energy information is exchanged, and when I go into the channel, enough of that energy is exchanged that I can start channeling. But when I entered the channel, I'm a group, we're a we, and it's a group of Illumined Masters. And the moment I started channeling, it was, you know, a true master, like I said, you see the master potential in someone else. You don't meet them like just this someone who came for a session. You see another potential of another master staring right in front of you. That's how master needs to see reality in people. No matter how much ego, no matter how much stuck, if they come, you have to know how to pull that master out of them. And so the moment we started doing this, we started going into this, how to really be your own master. And the reason why it was so beautiful to work with that person, because they were so open in understanding that they're the ones who need to witness this trickster energy and start working with it. So we actually started this practice of entering doorways, like opening doors, literally, like, of course the spirit team is always present and welcome, so you're safe. And we started opening doorways and then putting mirrors there so the person could see what's there, what's around them. And it was funny, like for example, in one instance, I don't know how much you'll be able to hear me because the wind just started blowing really badly. Anyway, there was this instance when a person had to see specific things, right? And we did this exercise, and all these things that I do during guidance, I don't do it as an individual. It's very easy for me. I don't think, it's just channeled, you know, it's just guidance, and it's so pure and it's so benevolent of what our group does. And these masters are simply tremendous. And for the first time, because I did my own transgression healing and I did my inner child healing, right? The child is the doorway for your master. The child can block you in the path of mastery because your ego is blocking your child. So at the same time, your child will block the master. See, it's kind of like stick and stones. And so it was beautiful because we just started working right from the top. You know, the whole question was, of course, the trickster energy and witnessing these things and inceptions. But we started working right away, and there was this first inception, for example, with the lifetimes, right? I tell you how people have incepted lifetimes. There are distortions that they would be shown during their own spiritual exploration. And the person said, yeah, this and this was supposed to be and happen, and the master said, was that the truth? Can you now enter the space of your heart and ask your heart if that is something that you're actually capable of doing as a being? And when they went inside their heart, the answer was no. Then we started doing this exercise of opening doorways, and what was behind the door was like instantly seen. That's an instant response you have. And you have to know, masters know how to work around things. Well, the wind just stopped! Seriously! No, be able to hear me! Hello? Shush now! As I don't have my microphone today, I forgot it. I'm fine with the wind. I love the wind, but I'm not sure how much sound will be able to come through. Anyway, a moment, please. We're having a conversation here, okay? Elementals, do your magic. So anyway, we started opening these doorways, right? And there was a specific doorway, and the moment the person went in, they said, there's this white light there. And you know what I tell you, what the white light is, right? And how encoded it is and how much inception there is. And then the masters started asking, they said, well, how does it feel? Because it's not just what you see, you have to go in the feeling. And they said, oh, it feels pleasant. I said, how does it feel in your skin? They were like, I have shivers. And then they understood that there's something there that's still false. They said, now place a mirror there and see yourself. See your face. The moment you see that mirror, see your face. And they're like, oh, I'm shocked. I'm like, of course. Why are you shocked? Because the white light is false. And then it gave me this information that these lords of darkness and these transgressors now also learned how to make the white light feel pleasant, that you wouldn't even think it's something bad for you. And that's something that's been going on for eons. But in these sessions, it's really coming out, but it's the person that has to see. And the moment you see, the inception can no longer hold you. The trickster stands no chance, because the moment you see it. Like, for example, in one case, when we were witnessing what's around, the person said, I had a tail here. He's like, what is that? It's an attachment, right? I said, what do you do? Oh, I just turn it off. I said, yes, because you're a master. You can do anything. And that's the problem with most people. They're like just witnessing things. Well, that's the first step. You're not even seeing. Then second, you start witnessing. And the third is you start acting on it as a diligent master. But the most beautiful part of the session for me was when there was this trickster energy and the person was confronting it, and I asked them, well, the masters asked them, what would you want to say to this energy? And the person immediately responds, thank you. Thank you. And the masters start clapping like this, like, yeah, bravo, we're having a master here, you know, this is how you do it. They're not more than you, they're just tricksters. And anyone, not just shamans, right, can learn how to work with the trickster energy, how to recognize it. And trickster energy is not just dark. It's all that's shiny and gold too. Oh, this is too much now. When it came was so peaceful, and now it's just like a hurricane. Should do my wind dance. Okay, seriously, my hat's gonna fly off. But do you know this? That the moment I've noticed this in my life, the moment you start exposing the truth, oh, they don't like it, right? They're sending you these winds as a counterattack. Yeah, you won't speak the truth. God and they say I will speak the truth. And will come out today. I just witnessed someone doing a reading that was yesterday, and something like a lawnmower, something really dark was happening in the background, and the person was like, no, I'm finishing this message, it needs to come out, no distractions. Like, yeah, way to go, you know, finish the message, do the deed, and that's what a master is. It's Aurea! That means in my language, I am Aurea. Sorry guys, I wasn't screaming at you, but the dark forces to be them want to wreak havoc in today's video. video. What we have an invited guest, but what can you expect when you're talking about such important things? Opening doorways, but always ask the illumined beings to be with you as a companion. You need to feel safe, okay? Put mirrors. Be willing to face yourself. Look at this. Half of the video will be me doing an intro, and half of the video will be me like in awe. I wish I had something like a claw that you could see, like the counterforce to this today. My device is literally gonna fall. Oh, I got chills because it's like a really cold wind, and it was so peaceful when I came here. No wind, absolutely no wind. That's what you get for, see, you have to understand how the devil works. It's always going to be a force of opposition whenever you bring out something good. Want to counteract this? You know, F you. Anyway, guys, what I want to say, you need to start consciously working first, recognizing your own shadow. That's the first step. Accepting it, loving it. Don't be ashamed of it. A lot of people don't go further than the status quo because they're ashamed of their shadow, so they run away. Second is, they might be willing to confront it, but only that which feels comfortable for them in the moment. Well, you always have to go deeper. Well, take time, be patient with yourself, but start the work. And the third level is you start confronting it, you start facing it with love, you embrace both feminine and masculine aspects of your work. And as much as the feminine is simply the teaching of the fluidity of life, of embodiment, the masculine is the discipline that you need. So you need both essences within you to make the shifts. Obviously, this video will need to be continued. Maybe later on I find a quieter spot, but this now is a little too much. Even for me, I'm getting really chilled. I'm not going to be here speaking to you as an ice cube. I'll see if there's something more needed to be said. But just use these tactics and practices and realize that you too can be a master. And don't go on for these, piling too much information in yourself and just nodding your head. Because even when you say this information, it resonates, and you do like this, it doesn't always have to be so that you need to find information that resonates. A lot of people delude themselves this way because their ego always, even when they're being guided to pursue something spiritually, the ego always guides them to find that which in the moment it resonates with them. That's not the only path of mastery, only that which resonates. You need to confront aspects with you that don't resonate because there's something stuck within you. And like I said, trigger points is when you go like, I don't wanna, until you go like, oh, enough. I have enough. I will face life. I will love life. I will embrace life, and I'll be free. And freedom is something that unfortunately in this realm you have to choose over and over again. Every day. Mastery is the mastery of choice. All masters are mastery of choice. And once you do that within yourself, and you know the benevolence of life, you serve the benevolence of life, you walk with the benevolence with life, you can serve others. And until that day comes, you need to find ways that you serve yourself, not self-indulgently, but self-awaringly. Because when your unconscious impulses are leading you and they're guiding you, it's always going to backlash every time, especially if your soul really wants you to wake up. That's my cue for now. I'll see if something more wants to come up, maybe in a random spot. If not, maybe we're just going to take that further in the next video. As you know, the deeper work, this is just general. I do on my Patreon page called Illumined Ascension. All my links, especially to my Telegram group, which is, it's a channel you can find down below, ways to connect. And if you feel called to a personal service that the group of masters can offer you through me, I always tell people this session isn't like anything you've had and experienced in your life. And at the end, people know, oh, best investment, best money ever spent. So I'm not bragging, it's just always been like that, because it's one thing to go to a psychic, it's one thing to be in a group of presence of the masters who will call you out, but with love. And they will give you always just what you need in the right moment, in the right time, never too much, never too little, because they honor you, they respect you, but they also love you enough to give you the benefit of the doubt that maybe you don't give yourself. And they will see you, they will give you the mirror that you haven't seen yourself before. And a lot of these people who come to me, they're like, they didn't even know they're so powerful. I'm like, I can be like this? Yes, absolutely yes. And that's the best gift someone can give you, a gift of triggering, awakening within you your inner master. Follow that pull, follow the call, go to whoever resonates. But again, don't just go for what resonates in the moment. A lot of times it's ego saying yes, yes, but no to the truth. It has to be an equal amount. Also, that which triggers you is your teacher, especially that which triggers you. So anyway, my loves, I don't think I'm going to record anymore today. I just need to find a spot that's not as windy and enjoy. I hope some of the information got through. If not, bless the Lord of creation anyway. So guys, I love you, and as always, so much love is in power. I'll talk to you next time if something comes up. Until the meantime, just have a beautiful time with your inner master and enjoying life, unveiling yourself, and going deeper. Bye for now. I'm just sitting here in a while, looking back on my choices and thinking about what makes one do such crazy things. What makes one risk their own life, for example. The adventure, right? Because even though sometimes, even before in my life, I got myself in these kind of physical messes, I would climb somewhere when it was weird and whatever. I felt such rush. Because when we do our daily tasks and our daily routines, life is just so mundane, right? But when you risk something and your blood starts to rush through your veins, I'm not saying you should do something like that. I'm obviously have a crazy side to me, and I need that because my path is quite challenging and difficult. My mission is very difficult, but in a way, my child unplugs this way. It's kind of like, it's by creating an event that's maybe stressful, it's how the body unleashes stress. That's kind of contained in the body. And even the pain that I felt before from the energies, it just suddenly went away through this rush of energy that I created for myself. And I always felt that my human child is exquisitely intelligent because I just always knew what to do, how to discharge energies, even transgression energies, stress, how to dismantle things. It just knew what to do. It always knew instinctively. So even though thinking, oh, I made a mistake, why did I climb there? I could just, slide it, roll down the hill along with those stones and, bumped a tree or whatever, injured myself. Because I obviously didn't have the right equipment. The shoes were crappy. I didn't intend this to happen today and to go here. It was all very spontaneous. But for some reason, it was also the right choice because I always trust myself. And even before, when I look back, when I was climbing a lot, I used to go to Italy, to Italian Alps all alone. I had a Jeep, I remember. And I just loved that. I was all alone. I went always in October when there's no one there. And I was all alone. And these Italians sometimes found me. They're like, you are like sola, no sola, no. And I'm like, yeah, I can do it. And they were kind of afraid and very protective. But every time, because I walked with huge protection, even with messy situations, I was always safe. I remember one time I was in the mountains and I made a weird move and I went again in a weird direction. And even with crampons on, I remember there was like a steep slope down and it was all icy. And I didn't want to make the next step upward because if I did, I was afraid that I rolled down, because it was so slippery. Even with crampons, it was so hard, icy. But then there was this guy there towards the right, kind of still very down the hill, and I kind of called out. And there was another guy towards the left who who was more ascended. The other one was more down and descended. And that the other one who was more descended, I needed their help. And I called out. I was like, you need to come up. And he didn't plan on going up towards the left where the peak was. But then he had to because of me, because all I needed was his hand, right, to lift me up. And I'm just thinking, all these moments, all these times, and even today, when I was in the worst, God gave me this tree, right? I just needed that one tree. And then the weird slippery slope when you couldn't even move your legs was gone. And then it was like this, when you can at least walk. So I'm just saying that these situations completely de-electrify me and they create kind of this opposite magnetic reaction through which my body just unleashes so much burden because I always carry a bit of the burden, I always have to do the next thing and record the next thing and do that and do this. And I tend to create a lot more business in my life than, it's normal for someone who already is so completely overcharged with things. And I could do a lot more yoga for myself. I could do a lot more just, other things that are just for me, but I don't. I just always tend up working. It's kind of like my natural response. So when I take these daily trips, and in the winter I couldn't, so naturally I was stuffed and I was stoked. And now that I can again, obviously my child was like, I'm going all in. And I'm like, wow, there was no preparation, no gear. What were you thinking? He's like, yeah, I'm going all in. So anyway, I don't want to be too long. I just want to zoom in. Beautiful peak. As you can know, there are sometimes many beautiful things we can see in the mountain rocks. I see an elephant right today. Oh, elephant. Yeah, elephant is protection. I see mother elephant and a baby elephant. Oh, you see? Oh, I have tears again. Because this is, elephant is a strong symbol of protection, an omen of God. So that's my cue. I was protected today, even with my stupidity and foolishness. But I was the fool, literally, in tarot today. I hope my story inspired some of you, maybe just made a nice moment with someone drinking tea or coffee. But either way, thank you for being here in my sacred space and allowing myself to just be shared in a natural way, not always needing to work or provide content, but just sharing some life cues and magic that I get to experience and then share with all of you. Blessings. Thank you. Oh, it's such a perfect day. I'm glad I spent it with you. It's such a perfect day. It just keeps me hanging on. It just keeps me hanging on. Even in my boots I was able to climb this ferrata. La 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 la. I'm stupid out. La la la. Hey guys, life is short, right, and sweet, especially for those who are going to ascend in this life. So I just want to spread some cheer today. I'm very elvish because, if you survive 2 deaths in 1 day, I already survived so many during my transgression years, and it feels like I'm finally being freed after 3 years of heavy darkness. So how can I not finally now want all of this? How can you not want all of this? If it's there, offering itself to you. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. All that it's left for me to say is I am Aurea, and I think that's the end of today's recording. I hope. You never know.